Evening, everybody. So today I just wanted to kind of discuss this idea of never putting the cue on the rack. So fortunately for myself, I got to pull on the boots again and pull on the club shirt again on Saturday, which was nice. Obviously not out of my own choice, out of desperation for the players that weren't available. I think on Wednesday, and a lot of coaches will know how this feels. I think on Wednesday we had 13 available lads, and then we are scrambling around trying to get the rest of the people together. So we fortunately managed to get a team together. Fortunately, managed to get the win as well. So a 2-point victory away from home to a team who were sat fourth. We were very, very pleased with. In fact, very, very pleased with it. It's probably an understatement. Over the moon with the effort from the boys and everything, which was fantastic. But this week I've kind of been thinking about a couple of different things, and I think first and foremost, it's really important as a coach to remember that actually your messaging needs to be really simple and needs to be really clear. One thing that stood out a lot for me by playing on Saturday was when you are absolutely shattered and really blowing, you are not thinking straight. You are literally just thinking, right, next job, what do I need to do now? How can I help the team? And sort of the structure and kick strategy and all that sort of stuff is pretty much out the window, and you are just responding to what is in front of you. So if you have a game plan, if you have messages that you want boys to kind of work to, you've got to remember to keep them simple so they know what they're doing in individual parts of the game without too much thought. The good thing about the way that we set up is kind of our attacking structure. Forwards know where they need to be, so when they're tired, when they're getting up from rucks, when they're looking around kind of trying to find out what to do, they know where they are. So one bit of advice I really picked up from Saturday was whatever you are trying to put on that field in the game, make sure it's clear and make sure it's simple, because when boys are tired, they aren't going to be thinking about overly complicated things. They are just acting on instinct. One thing that we did have is we had some unused substitutes on Saturday. An unused substitute, especially at this level of rugby, are really, really difficult. I've said hundreds of times before, we don't get paid for this, and these boys volunteer to come and play for your club. So by giving up a Saturday, travelling away from home, and then not getting on the field, that can be really, really difficult. And, you know, as I said, I was playing, so I wasn't coaching on Saturday. Kind of that fell to one of my assistants. But, you know, the situation being is that is a really hard situation, both for coach and for player. Now, personally, I think that the coach made the right decision. You know, that opposition were coming back. We only won by 2 points, and the player in question is sort of a back three player, relatively inexperienced at rugby, and you know ultimately the opposition were throwing the ball around and trying to get to the wide channels to score and inevitably win the game. And you're kind of caught in a catch-22. You know, do you put that person on so they get the experience of playing in that sort of pressure, or do you hold them back because the worst kind of situation is that they make a mistake in that moment or something doesn't quite go right and the opposition end up scoring, and then how does that player's relationship with rugby kind of look from that point? Do they come back? Do they continue to play? All those type of things have kind of got to be considered. Now, obviously, that is a very difficult conversation to have with that person, and that's probably a very difficult situation for that person to understand and kind of get on board with it as well, especially if you've travelled so far and ultimately paid your money to play a sport that you love. So that's a really difficult one, and actually something I'd love to kind of know your guys' thoughts on. How do you deal with unused subs if you have them? You know, drop me a message, pop something in the comments. It'd be really interesting to kind of know from a coach's point of view, what does that next conversation with that person look like? And then lastly, I think one of the mistakes that we made was expecting the opposition to stop coming at us. You know, it felt at times that we just put the cue on the rack and thought, oh, well, the game's won now. And we did have a big lead. And we just kind of thought, oh, well, that's it. They're done. They're dusted. But that opposition did not stop, and I think we fell into the trap of expecting them to, and that has been really dangerous. You know, we've seen it quite a lot this season. We've had 2 or 3 occasions where we've been in the lead, we have controlled a game, and then we've just assumed that the opposition won't come back, and it's really come back to bite us, and it almost did on Saturday. But I don't want to dwell on the negatives. I just want to say that the team, the boys, everybody ran around for 80 minutes, hit absolutely everything, did everything that they could within their power to get that win. And I'm so proud, not only as a coach, but also as a player on that field, to kind of see the boys' efforts at first hand on Saturday. So we are hopefully now kind of getting some momentum, getting some enjoyment behind us. And I just want to say to everybody that's out there, everybody's put that hard work in on that Saturday. Congratulations, because you got out of that game what you put in. Now we have 4 games left of the season, and hopefully we can start crawling our way back up that table a little bit. But I'd love to know, as a coach, in terms of how do you stop your team getting this mentality of a game is done? How do you stop them putting the cue on the rack early doors?